Good morning. Today the chapter 12 Consumer Protection. Students, the modern marketing concept considers consumer as a king of the market. All marketing activities aim at satisfying consumer needs and wants. However, it has been observed that due to growing competition and in order to increase the sales and market share, businessmen resort to malpractices or unfair trade practices like adulteration, black marketing, misleading advertising, etc. So it becomes essential to protect the consumers against all these malpractices. The approach of marketing has also been changed from caveat emptor, that is, let the buyer beware, to caveat vendita, let the seller beware. This chapter draws an insight how consumer is being protected from exploitation by the business community. So let us see the chapter 12 consumer protection. Consumer is a person who buys any product or service for final consumption for price. He is a person who buys any product or hire or avails of any services for his personal use or for the use of others, but not for commercial purpose, for the monetary consideration which is paid or agreed to be paid. So here, the consumer is a king in a free market economy. The earlier approach of caveat emptor, as I already said, let the buyer beware, has now been changed to caveat vendor, that is, let the seller beware. Consumer protection refers to the adoption of measures to protect the consumers against unscrupulous, exploitive, and unfair trade practices. Physical protection, environmental protection, protection against cheating, and protection against monopoly. Consumer Protection Act of 1986 defines consumer as one who buys goods or hires or avails of any service for some consideration that is paid or payable, one who uses the goods or hires or avails of any services with the approval of the buyer or hirer, one who uses the goods or avails of services to earn livelihood by self employment like purchase of truck, car, etc. So, consumer protection refers to protection of physical, economic, and other interests of the consumers from exploitation by the business community. The consumers are being protected by restricting the malpractices through legislature and other measures. Normally, the consumers are exploited by underweighment, misleading advertisements, standard goods, adulteration, black marketing, artificial scarcity, not providing after sales services, not issuing memos, receipts, etc. In short, consumer protection refers to protecting the rights of the consumers. Importance of consumer protection. Though consumer is a king of the market, still it is necessary to protect him from exploitation in the market by the unscrupulous businessmen. To create the awareness among the consumers, 15th March of every year is observed as Consumers' Rights Day all over the world. Now, the importance of consumer protection is viewed from the point of consumers as well as through business. From the point of view of consumers, the first point is consumers' ignorance. That is, the consumers are ignorant and not aware of their rights, so they cannot raise their voice against the exploitation. Therefore, it is necessary to educate them about the rights so as to achieve consumer protection. And the next one is unorganized consumers. As the consumers are not organized, they are being exploited by the business community. Therefore, it is necessary for the consumers to get organized against exploitation. And the next one is consumers' exploitation. The consumers are widely exploited by the business community through unfair trade practices like adulteration, black marketing, underweighment, deceptive advertisement, etc. So, it is important to protect them from such unfair practices. So, these are the point of view of consumers. Now, let us see from the point of view of business. From the viewpoint of business, the consumer protection is necessary. The first one is long term interest of business. Business units are bound to protect the consumer's interest by providing better quality of goods and services at reasonable prices for their long term survival. And the next one is social responsibility. Business uses the responsibility is very important. Acceptance of social responsibility of consumers by restricting the unfair trade practices is also one of the important factors of consumer protection. A business has social responsibility towards various interest groups. Business organizations make money by selling goods and providing services to consumers. The consumers from any important group among the many stakeholders of business, unlike other stakeholders, their interest has to be well taken care of. And the next one is moral justification. It is moral duty of any business to take care of the consumer's interest and avoid any form of their exploitation. A business must avoid unscrupulous, exploitative, and unfair trade practices like defective and unsafe products, adulteration, false and misleading advertising, hoarding, black marketing, etc. And the next one is government intervention. A business engaging in any form of exploitative trade practices would invite government intervention or action. This can impair and tarnish the image of the company. So, it is advisable that business organizations or voluntarily resort to such practices where the customer's needs and interests will well be taken care of. So, in view of all this, the Government of India has enacted several regulations designed to provide adequate protection to consumers. The Legal Protection to Consumers, Consumer Protection Act 1986. This act was enacted for better protection of consumer interest. It provides effective safeguards to consumers against defective goods, unsatisfactory services, unfair trade practices, and other forms of exploitation. The Act lays down a time frame of disposal of cases. It provides for quick and inexpensive redressal of grievances. Consumer can take as well as they can make a complaint on a simple paper. The Act provides for a three-tier agency or machinery consisting of district agency, state commissions, and national commission. It also provides for the formation of consumer protection councils in every state. These councils are expected to promote the cause of consumer protection through education. The next one is Legal Protection to Consumers Indian Contract Act at 1872. The act lays down the condition in which the promise made by parties to a contract will be binding on each other. The act specifies the remedies available to parties in case of breach of contract. The next one is Sale of Goods Act 1930. The Act provides some safeguards and reliefs to the buyers of the goods in case of the goods purchased do not comply with express or implied conditions or warranties. The next one is Essential Commodities Act 1955. The Act aims at controlling production, supply, and distribution of essential commodities, checking inflationary trend in their prices, and ensuring equal distribution of essential commodities. The Act also provides for action against antisocial activities of profiteers, hoarders, and black marketers. The next act is Agricultural Produce, that is Grading and Marking Act 1937. The Act prescribes grade standards for agricultural commodities and livestock products. The Act stipulates the conditions which govern the use of standards and lays down the procedure for grading, marking, and packing of agricultural produce. The quality mark provided under the Act is known as AGMARK, an acronym for agricultural marketing. The next act is the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954. The act aims to check adulteration of food articles and ensure their purity so as to maintain public health. The next one is Legal Protection to Consumers. That is Standards of Weights and Measures Act 1976. The provision of this act are applicable in case of those goods which are sold or distributed by weight, measure or number. It provides protection to consumers against malpractices of underweight or under measure. The next one is the Trademarks Act 1999. This act has replaced the Trade and Merchandise Marks Act 1958. The act prevents the use of fraudulent marks on products and thus provides protection to the consumers against such products. The next legal protection of consumers is Competition Act 2002. This act has repealed and replaced the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act 1969. The act provides protection to the consumers in case of practices adopted by business firms which hamper competition in the market. Legal Protection to Consumers Act 1986. The Bureau of Indian Standards has been set up under the Act. The Bureau has two major activities: formulation of quality activities as well as the standards for goods and their certification through the BIS certification scheme. Manufacturers are permitted to use the ISI mark on their products only after ensuring that the goods conform to the prescribed quality standards. The Bureau has also set up a grievance cell where consumers can make a complaint about the quality of products carrying the ISI mark. The most important of these regulations is the Consumer Protection Act, which provides for six consumer rights and helps consumers in getting their grievances redressed for any shortcoming of the goods purchased or services availed. Consumer rights. The Consumer Protection Act provides the rights of consumers. The Consumer Protection Council set up under the Act are intended to promote and protect the various rights of the consumers. So let us see the consumer rights. A right to safety and right to be informed. When you see the right to safety, the consumer has a right to be protected against goods and services which are hazardous to life and health. For example, electrical appliances which are manufactured with substandard products or do not conform to the safety norms which might cause serious injury. So consumers are educated that they should use electrical appliances which are ISI marked, as this would be an assurance of such products meeting quality specifications. And the right to be informed is the consumer has a right to have complete information about the product he intends to buy, including its ingredients, date of manufacture, price, quantity, directions for use, etc. It is because of this reason that the legal framework in India requires the manufacturers to provide such information on the package and label of the product. Next one is the right to choose. The consumer has a freedom to choose from a variety of products at a competitive prices. This implies that the marketers should offer a wide variety of products in terms of quality, brand, prices, size, etc., and allows the consumers to make a choice from among these. So consumer has a freedom to choose from the variety of products. The next rights of a consumer is right to be heard. The consumer has a right to file a complaint and to be heard in case of dissatisfaction with the goods or service. It is because of this reason that many enlightened business firms have set up their own consumer services and grievance cells. Many consumer organizations are also working towards this direction and helping consumers in redressal of their grievances. So, complaints and grievances should be considered here. It is a right to file a complaint and to be heard in case of dissatisfaction with the goods or services. If you have purchased any unsatisfactory product, someone must listen to your complaints. That is called right to be heard. You have the right to have your problem corrected. The next consumer right is right to seek redressal. The consumer has a right to get relief in case the product or service falls short of his expectation. The Consumer Protection Act provides a number of reliefs to the consumers, including replacement of the product, removal of defect in the product, compensation paid for any loss or injury suffered by the consumers, so they can seek the redressal agency. The Consumer Protection Act 1986 provides for the establishment of three-tier quasi-judicial body called Consumer grievances redressal agency. Accordingly, the consumer grievance redressal agencies are established at district, state, and national level to receive complaints from consumers and to speed up the settlements of consumer disputes. So, these consumer redressal agencies are very important to solve the consumers' problems. The next consumer right is right to consumer education. The consumer has a right to acquire knowledge and to be well informed consumers throughout the life. He should be aware about his rights and he relieves the available to him in case of products or service falling short of his expectations. Many consumer organizations and some enlightened business are taking an active part in educating consumers in this respect. Consumer Protection Act of consumers conferring these rights on the consumers empowers them to fight against any unscrupulous, exploitative, and unfair trade practices adopted by sellers. The box on Delhi's Delhi eatery shows a restaurant owner has fined for overpricing bottled water. If a restaurant owner has fined for overpricing the bottled water, then definitely the consumer rights will come and help the consumers in such a way they'll take care of buy through the consumer redressal agencies. So, consumer rights by themselves cannot be effective in achieving the objective of consumer protection. Consumer protection can, in effect, be achieved only when the consumers also understand the responsibilities. Home assignment. Explain consumer rights. Explain the importance of consumer protection from the point of view of a business.